Hello there! In this lesson, we are going to be learning how to add pagination to our blog index page. So our original template from Atlas looks like this. Right, we've got 1, it's selected, 2, 3, and then next. And the idea is, we show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 or 7 blog posts per page. Now I'm going to show you how to add the pagination, and then we're going to work on some of the front end stuff. So back end first, then front end. So going into our project, I'm actually going to open up views. Search views. So in the search app, we have this file called views. Now I am going to, first of all, put this into my clipboard because I'm going to need to import that. I've got empty page not an integer, and paginator. And then I'm going to kind of basically just, steal this. Pagination comes with Wagtail by default inside of the search view. So if you're ever wondering, oh, what is that code? Because honestly, I don't usually remember this one. I usually just copy it from Wagtail. So now I'm going to open up my blog models. And I have a blog index page. And basically, we want to paginate these. So we don't want to show all blog posts at the same time. Maybe we just want to show 3 at a time. Or if we really want to follow the design, it was supposed to be like 6 or 7 at a time. We're going to kind of customize that a little bit. So first things first, I paste this in here, and we're going to see, first of all, there is, it's missing a couple of imports. So back to the top of the page we go, somewhere around the Django area, and we import that in there. I'm going to go back down to where paginator exists, and this is looking for search results. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do a little dissection here. We're going to call this posts, I guess. Posts are going to be, this original line that I just kind of stole from down here. And then we are going to be looking at paginating, not the search results. So we'll change all instance of that to posts. And then this paginator is going to try to paginate per page in here. So we actually need one more thing. We need to check to see if, look at that, if there is actually a page in the URL. And by default, it's going to be 1. So basically our page or our website is going to be like yourwebsite.com/blogs question mark page is equal to 2. But by default, it will always be 1. So if there's nothing there, it acts as if it is the number 1. So we're going to paginate, throw those posts in there. We're going to do 10 at a time. Let's actually do 1 at a time just for now. We can change that later. And in fact, so I don't forget to change this to a higher number. Then we're going to try to paginate based on the page. If that page is not an integer, if whatever this is not an integer, then we're going to paginate based on page 1. So we're going to default to page 1. And if there is an empty page, essentially, we're just going to paginate for the page, all of it. And then we're going to throw that into our post. So the idea is when we add that page is equal to 2, it's going to then change this to look at page number 2. And it's going to get, instead of that first object, it's going to get the second object. Theoretically, that's the idea anyways. So let's go ahead and open up our blog index page. And we do have some pagination already in here. That would be 1, 2, 3. So what I like to do is, first of all, wrap this. We don't want to show any pagination if there is nothing to show. So we're going to say, if posts.paginator.num pages is greater than 1, then we show pagination. If there's nothing to paginate, don't show the next button, don't show page 1 or 2. That's what we're going to do. Then what we have is, I have to do this. I have to do a little bit of cleanup here. All right, we're back. So I just made that a little more legible, a little easier to read. So we have an active state and an inactive state. So number 1 is our active state. This is assuming we're on page 1. You can see the color is slightly different than 2 and 3 and next. So we know that number 1 is our active state. Now in order to get all of these numbers first, we need to do a little loopy loop. So we say for page number in posts.paginator dot page range. And we will end that for loop right there. And then inside of it, we can add something like this. So we're just going to copy that, put that in there, and we are going to change this to page num. And we'll say one old there, just so that we can kind of see what this is doing. Let's go over to my blog here. We have 1 and 2, and then we've got 1 old. So 1 old is where the old template left off. 1 and 2 is what we currently have. That's great. Now in here, we might want to see if the current page is the selected page, right? We have this styling currently being used in both places, and that's for the active state. So if we're on page 1, make it look like we're on page 1. If we're on page 2, make it look like we're on page 2. So what we're going to say is if posts.number is equal to the current page num, then we can show that. Otherwise, show the normal one. And that normal one looks like number 2, I do believe. So I'm going to start deleting some stuff that we no longer need. Move that up here. And now we're looping through all the page numbers. Oh, we're going to need this down here as well. And number 3 we can get rid of because that's of no use. And next we have not dealt with yet. So let's go and check out our progress. Oh, look at that. We've got 1, we've got 2, and we've got next. Now these aren't links. You can see at the bottom left, this is going nowhere. And that's because for whatever reason, this template is using spans instead of hyperlinks. So now we're going to add oh, let's not do that totally. We're going to select both and we're going to say href is equal to, and we want to add, actually I got ahead of myself there. We want to add question mark page is equal to the page num, whatever that is. And then, you know what? Yeah, let's take a look at what we're doing here. Okay, page 1, great. So that's my second post, that's my newest post. And this was my original post, and you can actually see the active state is changing here. We got a bit of a discrepancy. So we can take a look at some of this front end stuff, right? We've got margin left. Well, maybe what we always want, regardless, is actually margin right 3. And I don't even know if this is compiled, so this might not work without recompiling Tailwind. And it looks like it is not. So I'm going to cheat. And I'm going to say margin left 3 because I know that's already been compiled. There we go. Now, ideally, this would line up right in there if we used margin right. But again, the source code does not include margin right 3, which is Tailwind. So we're going to stick with this one for now. Then we have the next button. And the next button is essentially, we want to say, is there a next button? If posts.hasNext show all that, and if we also want to turn this into a link as well, and we're going to say the href is equal to page mustache syntax posts dot next page number. All right, look at this. Let's take a look. Okay, we got page 1. We're on page 1. We can see it up here. If I click on this, page 2, next is also page 2. Watch this. I'll click next and go to page 2, and there isn't another page. If there were more blog posts, it would show up for sure. Now, what if I'm on page 2 and I want to go to the previous page, right? That's actually something our design seems to be missing, right? And designers, just like developers, are not perfect. They tend to miss things like that. So let's go ahead and see if we can add a previous button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this post.hasNext. I'm going to put this before the for loop. Instead of hasNext, or really just next at all, I'm going to select those. Type in prev, previous, prev. I'm going to have to change this icon. I just want to check to see if this is going to work for us. And it does not. And that's because it's not has prev. I do this all the time because I always use prev instead of previous because I am lazy. Let's refresh. And there it is, previous. The arrow's in the wrong place. Let's move that up one. And can we even change this arrow? BX right arrow, bx, left arrow, question mark. Maybe this is going to work too. Again, we're not doing too much of the front end stuff. We're just wagtailifying this. Look at that. Previous shows up. Next shows up. Previous shows up. Next shows up. We have working pagination. Now what happens when we go in here and we say page is equal to not a real page? What happens? Defaults to page 1, which is exactly what we're looking for. So that's how we go ahead and add pagination. Now this really actually has nothing to do with Wagtail. Nothing at all. This is straight up Django. So if you go into your Wagtail views, search/views.py, you have an example of pagination in there. What we did was we basically stole that, threw it in here. We have a default page, which always defaults to 1. And we have a query object in here, a bunch of blog pages. This could be 1, this could be 1,000. And what this is going to do is paginate based on the number that we put in here. Now I'm going to increase this to 6, and we're going to see that no pages show up. Oops, I clicked a thing. I refresh, and we don't have any pagination down there at all. Now we can see we run into a little bit of a situation. There's always a border bottom at the, I guess the bottom of each little include that we have here. Then pagination, and then our footer has a top border. Well, what happens if there's no pagination? These are some of the woes that we run into when we wagtailify a design. This is totally normal. This is going to happen. If you have a designer, reach out to your designer. If you do not have a designer, you can always check to see if this is the last one in an iteration and not add that border bottom. That's always an option as well. Or if you like front-end stuff, you can always just get rid of that using CSS. So that is how we add pagination. Again, super quick recap. Search views.py. Go ahead and steal the stuff that Wagtail already comes with. Throw it into your context. Make sure you have some sort of posts. We got to paginate something. Your page number. And this is going to look for, remember, question mark page is equal to, but we're just going to put the word page in there. Defaults to number 1, paginate posts, 6 per page. If it can, great. If it can't, default to page 1. Otherwise, get all the posts, throw it back into a context variable called posts, and then we're going to say if there are even pages to show, let's show some pagination. If there is, in fact, something, we can say if there is a previous post, we can show some stuff. If there's a next post, we can show a little link in there as well. Otherwise, really we're just saying, for each page number that we get, do something, show something, and just show that next page, link to that next page, whatever that is. Lastly, we have if that page number is equal to the actual page number in the iteration. This is our active state, and this is our inactive state. And that's that. That's pagination. Have some fun with that, and when you're ready, I'll see you in the next video.